Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the fourth annual Engaged Scholarship Consortium, which this year, and I'm very pleased to say this, is a collaboration between University Outreach and Engagement, the Innovation Hub, the Center for the Integration of STEM Education and Research, as well as TRUE. And we are all part of Discoveries to Impact, celebrating research, innovation, engagement, and discoveries. The conference would not have been possible without the support of many sponsors whom you'll see on our slide. We wish to thank everybody who participated and contributed to this. And I know we have had a great start to the week. We had the undergraduate research conference yesterday. We had the startup competition on Monday, including an excellent keynote speaker. So thank you again for continuing to participate in all the activities. I will turn this over now to Dr. Rob Stewart, who will recognize our award winners for this year. And Dr. Stewart is the Vice Provost of Texas Tech University. Welcome, Dr. Stewart.
Thank you, Birgit, for the kind introduction and for the opportunity and the honor to join the symposium this morning with some opening comments and introductions. And good morning to everyone. We appreciate your interest in Engaged Scholarship and for taking part in today's symposium. We hope you can be here for the entirety of the day's program, but even if you can't, your time that is with the program will be well spent, as you'll have gained some additional perspective and understanding of Engaged Scholarship today. We often refer to or talk about basic and applied research, probably more so than about Engaged Scholarship. And an objective of the symposium like this then is to expand that conversation about Engaged Scholarship and to highlight the exemplars of what that entails. Here's some important distinctions we need to remember, I think. Basic research gets at fundamental hypotheses and questions. More often than not, it's theory-oriented and it's driven entirely by the researchers. Basic research, for example, enabled the identification and the continuing fundamental understanding of the SARS virus that led to COVID-19. Applied research addresses possible solutions to practical problems. Usually, it derives from general strategies with broad implications. It too is usually driven by the researchers. Development of the COVID-19 vaccines relies directly on applied research. Engaged Scholarship, on the other hand, relies on both basic and applied research to address a specific community need or larger social issue in collaboration with community partners. It aims to find solutions that may impact the social or economic well-being of individuals, families, and communities. Researchers and community partners work as a team in Engaged Scholarship. A hypothetical example might be identifying and testing logistical and economic strategies to enhance the provision of vaccines to a rural town that has no full-time medical provider. Exciting about today is that we look forward to some excellent examples of Engaged Scholarship involving Texas Tech researchers and a number of community partners. In these examples, the researchers bring their scholarly expertise, their basic and applied research methods and knowledge to bear on a community problem or issue that is practically experienced and better understood by particular community groups and individuals. As one of three priorities in Texas Tech University's current strategic plan, the university now recognizes exemplary Engaged Scholarship with a set of relatively new awards for projects that demonstrate commitment and excellence in scholarly engagement with community partners. Two of these award-winning teams will present their projects in this morning's sessions, and two of them will present later this afternoon. We'd like to recognize these winning Engaged Scholarship teams at this time. First is the 2021 President's Emerging Engaged Scholarship Award. This award recognizes Texas Tech faculty for a relatively new project or initiative that demonstrates high potential for the advancement of Engaged Scholarship The project or initiative shows outstanding promise for having a significant impact on communities and the university. The award-winning team is comprised of Dr. Sean Mitchell, an assistant professor in the Department of Psychological Sciences, and Dr. Megan Thoen, an adjunct instructor and director of the TTU Psychology Clinic in the Department of Psychological Sciences. Their project is entitled Evaluation of a Crisis Intervention Training Program among Police Officers and Recruits. And perhaps very practically, their community partner is the Lubbock Police Department. We congratulate this team of researchers and practitioners for their award. The second award to be recognized today is the 2021 President's Excellence in Engaged Scholarship Award. This award recognizes Texas Tech faculty for a longer-term project or initiative that demonstrates a significant and sustained commitment to addressing a community need or larger social issue through active collaboration with community partners. The award winners, the faculty team, all in the Department of Educational Psychology, Leadership, and Counseling in the College of Education, begins with Dr. Fernando Valle, who is also the interim chair of the new Special Education Department. Dr. Irma Almagat, assistant professor in the department. Dr. Vanessa De Leon, an assistant professor in the department. Dr. Dusty Palmer, another assistant professor in the department. And Dr. Celinda Cumby, an instructor in the department. Their project is entitled A University to District Partnership in Leadership Preparation, the co-construction of the Texas Tech University Principal Fellows Residency Program. Their community partners, were Lubbock Independent School District and Grand Prairie Independent School District. Evidence that these projects aren't just local to the university's immediate community, but in this case, extend across the state. Congratulations to that team. A third award-winning team will present their project in a session at 2 o'clock this afternoon. This team is another winner of the 2021 President's Excellence in Engaged Scholarship Award. Their project, entitled the West Texas 3D COVID-19 Relief Consortium, comprised of over 50 faculty, staff, and students from Texas Tech and the Health Sciences Center, came together to develop a supply chain for personal protective equipment and medical devices for frontline workers across West Texas. They were led by Dr. Alyssa Wong of the TTU Honors College and Dr. Simon Williams, of Texas Tech Health Sciences Center, among others. There was a vast array of community partners involved in this project, as there was a vast array of Texas Tech faculty and staff. And we can't name them all, and we apologize for missing some perhaps. But examples of those partners would be Angel Flight, the District Attorney's Office, Ward Memorial Hospital, West Tech Seal Incorporated, the University of Texas of the Permian Basin, West Texas Medical Associates, and the Muleshoe Area Medical Center. Congratulations to that team, and we very much appreciate all you contributed in the heat of the COVID-19 pandemic. And last but not least is the 2021 President's Exemplary Program Award. This goes to the team with the project title, The ACOM Block, an innovative course structure to engage students with industry, ACOM standing for Agricultural Communication. The award winners, all of whom are faculty members in the Department of Agricultural Education and Communication in the College of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources, are Dr. Lindsay Kennedy, an assistant professor of practice, Dr. Courtney Myers, professor and graduate studies coordinator in the department, Dr. Courtney Gibson, an assistant professor, and Dr. Erica Earlbeck, a professor in the department. Their community partners included the Texas Department of Agriculture, Lubbock County 4-H, Pets of Lubbock, Communities and Schools, and Legacy Play Village. This project also will be presented at an afternoon session today. We thank each of these teams of engaged scholars and community partners for their commitment to engaged scholarship, seeking practical solutions to important lived needs within our local communities. And we thank you all for being here today to celebrate and learn from these exemplary projects. Please enjoy the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart. We appreciate it. And my congratulations as well go out to all the winners of this year's Engage Scholarship Awards. We really appreciate your work, your commitment to engaging with partners and to make a difference in the lives of. With that in mind, we will start our presentations. And if you have any questions related to the specific projects, please put those into the chat box. At the end of each presentation, we will read those questions aloud and ask the team to respond. And if we run out of time, you will have a chance to visit with presenters after today as well. So our first presentation team is Dr. Sean Mitchell and Dr. Megan Thorne, who will talk about their project evaluation of a crisis intervention training program among police officers and recruits. Thank you for being here, and I'll turn it over to you.
All right, can you hear us just fine and see the title slide?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you for inviting us to talk about our study. Again, it's called the Evaluation of a Crisis Intervention Training Program among Police Officers and Recruits, and we're honored to have received the Texas Tech's 2021 President's Emerging Engaged Scholarship Award for our partnership with the Lubbock Police Department. Today, we'll be giving an overview of our study. However, given that this is truly an emerging new project, we'll also be focusing on how we built this community connection. So first, I wanted to start with some brief introductions and just a little bit more information about us. So my name is Dr. Sean Mitchell. Like was mentioned, I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Psychological Sciences, and I run the Suicide Risk and Prevention Research Lab. And primarily my research area focuses on suicide risk and prevention among high-risk groups. So this involves individuals involved in the criminal justice system and those with severe mental illness. And I've also started some work recently related to upstream suicide prevention efforts. So this would be suicide prevention that occurs prior to the onset of risk to prevent the development of risk, rather than identifying someone who is already at risk and trying to help them. This could also include improving societal structures to decrease barriers to mental health care to prevent suicide.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Megan Thone. I'm the current director of the Texas Tech Psychology Clinic here, which is housed within the Department of Psychological Sciences. I'm an adjunct instructor over in this department, as well as a licensed psychologist. My research really focuses on law enforcement wellness, but also the mental health treatment of criminal justice involved individuals. And so it's really that got me involved with this project. So let's talk a little bit about what exactly is CIT, this acronym. So this acronym is actually used for multiple things. And so I want to kind of clarify which CIT we're going to be talking about today. So TIT can actually be used to refer to a crisis intervention team. And some of you may be familiar with that acronym. So the concept of a crisis intervention team was first developed in 1988 within the Memphis Police Department. And so a crisis intervention team in the traditional sense is also referred to as the Memphis model, given where it originated. And so a crisis intervention team was designed to be a special team of police officers trained in responding to mental health crises to then ensure that citizens are routed to appropriate mental health treatment rather than to jail. It's meant to be a jail diversion initiative and a community-focused program. Compared then to CI training, crisis intervention training, which this training focuses on the training of officers on how to respond to mental health crises, but not necessarily for the purposes of then creating a crisis intervention team. But the general goals of both are about the same. The Lubbock Police Department does have a true crisis intervention team, and it is that team that then conducts the crisis intervention trainings. So What crisis intervention training is that we'll be talking about today is it's a required 40-hour training that's an evidence-based training. And this training is now required by the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, or TCOL. The primary goal of crisis intervention training through TCOL is to teach officers how to calm persons with mental illness who are in a crisis and to refer them to mental health care services, again, rather than incarcerating them. This goal then hopes to reduce or lessen injuries to officers, to alleviate harm to the person in crisis, to promote decriminalization of individuals with mental illness, to reduce the stigma associated with mental disorders, and to also then use this training for a team approach when responding to crises. So why are officers now required to do this crisis intervention training? So this 40-hour training is now a state-mandated response to the Sandra Bland Act, which was signed into Texas law in 2017. This act was a reaction to Sandra Bland, who was a woman who died by suicide in jail. And this act now mandates that the criminal justice system divert people with mental illness and substance use problems to the appropriate treatment rather than jail. So this mandate specifically includes training all Texas law enforcement to receive this 40-hour course during their basic training and as part of continuing education. However, the research on this training program is actually scant on local, state, and national levels. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. So what are some of the components of this training in general? Well, the first part, and a really big part of it, is psychoeducation. And what this includes is it includes defining what is a mental health crisis, reviewing some of the adversity and stigma those with mental illness experience, including what they experience from law enforcement. It includes a review of the various mental disorders and substance abuse issues that citizens can experience. But it also includes review of cognitive and developmental disorders, including intellectual disability and autism spectrum disorder. And then it also reviews what are some of the risk factors for someone wanting to attempt suicide, but also what are some of the protective factors as well. This training then also includes specific techniques that officers can use to de-escalate a situation, meaning what can the officers specifically do to reduce the distress that a member of the community might be experiencing while they're amidst one of these mental health crises. Within this 40-hour training, there's lots of community speakers, including speakers from the local mental health authority, from the district attorney's office, from local veterans organizations. And so they all come in to talk about what role they play within this system as well. There is review of what are the local resources in terms of what is available for those within mental health within the local mental health authority for these folks in crises. They go through a series of role plays where the officers are actually able to practice the de-escalation techniques they've learned to help then be able to translate that to a real world setting. And then they do have to pass a final test to be able to receive the credit for this program. And a key part we wanted to point out is that this training program also includes some information related to officer mental health. Police suicide rates are increasing, and so there's a little bit of training within this just so officers know what they can look at within themselves to make sure that they're functioning the best way possible to serve their communities. So a little bit of research on a review of the research related to the effectiveness of these programs. So what we know from research is that substance use coupled with mental health concerns and then involvement within the criminal legal system itself, these are overlapping groups. And there's evidence that shows that within these groups, there's elevated suicide ideation and attempt rates. What we also know is that when responding to mental health and suicide crises among these high-risk individuals, the burden is often falling to first responders, such as police officers who are called out to a suicidal subject call, for example. And research shows that 45.8% of incidents in which crisis intervention team trained patrol officers are responding to, those are actually suicide related. So CIT effectiveness in terms of the effectiveness of a crisis intervention team, this research has indicated that such teams improve officer comfort, knowledge, and attitudes towards individuals with mental illness. It's also been shown to positively impact officer perceptions, to decrease the need for higher levels of police intervention, to decrease officer injuries, and to redirect those in crisis from the criminal justice system successfully to the healthcare system. CIT itself is often rated positively by the officers who participate. In general, officers' attitudes about the impact of CIT on improving overall safety, accessibility of services, officer skills and techniques, and the preparedness of officers to handle such calls involving persons with mental illness are all positively associated with officers' confidence in their abilities or with officers' perceptions of overall departmental effectiveness. So research also indicates then that officers are responding to CIT-related calls, or when they do respond to CIT-related calls, they're 82% less likely to use their guns than when responding to other types of calls. So again, it should be noted that many of these studies are focusing specifically on the effectiveness of crisis intervention teams, not crisis intervention training itself. And so crisis intervention training itself is really important because to best meet the needs of high-risk individuals within our communities and to improve overall community safety, we must equip police officers with the skills they need to effectively navigate these crises with high-risk individuals. And these types of trainings can then save lives, we can match individuals in crisis with appropriate services, and we can increase officer safety as well.
All right, so excuse me. Next, I want to go through this figure, which is an overview of the conceptual framework of the crisis intervention team model. So first, you'll see here the first essential element of CIT is the training and a partnership between police and mental health professionals. And our study focuses on trainees' learning outcomes, such as attitudes towards people with mental illness and those in a suicide risk crisis, but then also knowledge about mental illness and other services that are available for those with mental illness. And then lastly, we collect behavioral data from the LPD records about police interactions with individuals who are in crisis. So I want to give an overview to answer the question of what are some things that are missing in CIT research? Well, one question that's still relevant is what leads to behavior change? So it's unclear whether changes in attitudes, knowledge, and skills actually translate then to those behavioral change outcomes that we might be interested in. Also, separating individual characteristics of the police officers from training in relation to our outcomes of interest is still a bit of an open question. It's hard to do this and kind of identify how these individual characteristics may impact outcomes when we can't randomize in a study or if we're unable to collect individual difference variables. We could also consider these individual characteristics as potential moderators of treatment effectiveness. And then we also don't know exactly what is working. So as you heard, there are a lot of components to this training. And so identifying aspects of the CIT training model that work is important, and then trying to strengthen those aspects. So because CIT was a quick response to an important problem, although it's based in research, we don't know what's most effective about CIT. Likewise, although this training program is based on existing psychology research, and the literature suggests that police officers who go through CIT training or are part of a CIT team, that this can be effective, CIT training is yet to be rigorously evaluated to determine positive outcomes and what can improve or impede officer buy-in to these training programs and the use of the strategies that are covered. Additionally, there's limited suicide-specific training evaluations to dismantle what is or is not effective about CIT training for suicide risk management specifically. And so this lack of evaluation really inhibits our ability to specifically identify what could be improved about CIT training. And like was previously mentioned, there's been more research about CI teams, so those crisis intervention teams, than overall trainings for all officers. So our study will try to address several of these missing pieces. So I want to touch on some of the research questions that we're hoping to answer by the time this project is complete. So first we ask, how does police officers' knowledge about mental illness and crisis intervention change from before the CIT training to after the training? We're also interested in how do police officers' attitudes towards mental illness and crisis intervention change from before the CIT training to after the training. So this includes attitudes about mental illness in general, but also attitudes towards suicidal individuals more specifically. We're also interested in how are police officers' changes in knowledge and attitudes linked to their behaviors, so their actual interactions with individuals in crisis. And this also does include some suicide-specific behavioral outcomes as well. And then we're also asking, how are these changes in knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors maintained over time? And then lastly, what officer characteristics and past experiences impact the effectiveness of CIT training? So this could be things like past training experiences, years of experience or field experience, previous interactions with individuals in crisis, and their baseline attitudes and knowledge that might be impacting their reaction to the training materials. So I also want to provide an overview of the study timeline and our progress so far. So we actually started talking with the LPD about this project this past summer in June 2020, and then got ready to launch the study in August 2020. So it was a very quick turnaround. And so we conduct various self-report assessments before the CIT training and after the CIT training is complete. And so far, we've had 3 training cohorts complete that part of the study. And then we complete a 3- and 6-month follow-up survey, basically trying to see how their knowledge and attitude change has possibly been maintained over time. And so far, we've had 1 cohort complete the 3- and 6-month follow-ups. And then lastly, we will do a LPD record review for their CIT exam data regarding learning outcomes, but then also their interactions with people in crisis. So this would include information such as use of force, arrests, referrals to mental health agencies, if there was a suicide attempt, and things like that. So next, I want to talk a bit about how this community partnership came about. So we, the TTU team, partnered with the LPD, specifically the CIT officers, and these officers actually approached the TTU team with interest in evaluating their CIT program. So our research team here includes me, the members of my lab, which would be my doctoral students and undergraduate research assistants, and Dr. Thone. And there are several ways that we work together with the LPD, which I'll discuss a bit more in a second. The TTU team then discussed the officers' goals, what they would like to understand from the project, and how we could be most helpful to facilitate mutual goals. And then we observed and offered to present at the CIT training during the project development stage to partially establish the relationship between us and the CIT team, but also to become familiar with the CIT program, how it runs, the content, how the officers are during the training, just to kind of get a really hands-on experience. And then the CIT officers have been actively involved with us throughout project development and implementation. So the LPD team discussed their needs and desire to improve the CIT program. And then we used our knowledge of research design and surveys to construct surveys and put together the project that best suited what the LPD was looking for in their areas of interest. And I also wanted to note that although the LPD was not initially focused on suicide prevention as an outcome, they were very open to this idea and saw the importance of that work. And the LPD officers then also provided us feedback on surveys that we thought would be helpful to administer before and after the training and at the follow-ups. They gave us feedback on officer-related terminology and ways that we could potentially enhance the study feasibility and participant retention. So we really leaned on them to make sure that what we were asking was relevant to the CIT trainees, was using language they would be familiar with, and really orient ourselves a bit better to police culture. And I really want to emphasize here that communication has been key to this entire process. So the TTU team and the LPD teams have been mutually responsive in scheduling meetings, emailing, problem solving to ensure the project's success. And we'll continue to work together to foster effective communication to enhance the project, scholarship, and the community impact of this work. So I do want to bring your attention for a second to the image that I put on the screen, because I thought it was a nice parallel. So I think building a community partnership is a lot like a Jenga tower. It starts out as sturdy with all of the pieces, and as the partners negotiate their mutual and different interests, this requires members of the partnership to begin to remove blocks from the tower. And as blocks are removed, we have to work together to be sure that we don't remove a block that will topple the tower. So this takes compromise and communication. I want to provide a brief overview of community-based participatory research and a model to think about. I'm by no means an expert in community-based participatory research, or CBPR. There's a lot of text out there in the literature about this. However, I generally use this model to guide my thinking and interactions with the LPD when I was getting this project started and as we're continuing to run it. So the CBPR framework follows many of the same steps that we're used to following in social sciences. This includes identifying a population of interest and the research aims, designing and conducting the study, interpreting our findings, disseminating the findings, and planning a next step for our next project. However, CBPR emphasizes partnership and collaboration with the community organization at all phases and all stages of the research process. And it views the organization as an equal collaborator to the project. So this partnership and collaboration is really at the heart of the CBPR model. So applied to our project, the LPD team has police and CIT expertise that we don't have. And we have expertise in research design and survey construction, which are both equally important to the project's success. We also co-established the project goals with the LPD and other stakeholders to maximize the community impact and to protect this professional relationship that we're developing. And we'll continue to work with the LPD to discuss the most effective ways to disseminate our findings and suggest changes that are informed by our findings. So this could look like having the LPD CIT officers, rather than us as kind of the TTU outsiders, present our findings to their superior and work together to generate realistic solutions. So we had asked the LPD to provide us with a video initially, but they've been very busy actually conducting more of these CIT trainings, but they were kind enough to provide us with a statement. So I'll read that to you now. So the members of the LPD crisis intervention team wrote this brief note, and it reads, on behalf of the Lubbock Police Department's crisis intervention team, we're honored to partner with Dr. Sean Mitchell and his team. We appreciate the time and effort that they have shown to the Lubbock Police Department in their efforts to provide and improve the quality of training for responding to individuals that experience mental health and behavioral health crises. The research that Dr. Mitchell is collecting in coordination with our crisis intervention trainings will not only assist our department, but the other police departments across the nation in developing relevant and necessary adjustments to the training curriculum and police responses. Our team is extremely proud of Dr. Sean Mitchell and his team. So I thought that that was a very kind statement, but it really emphasizes as well that this collaborative approach that we took is clearly appreciated by the LPD and has allowed them to really value this partnership and our work together.
So we want to talk specifically more about what's the community impact of this project. And so really our study directly is pertaining to improving the Lubbock community in some way. So first and foremost, the Lubbock police officers are often the first responders to a mental health, substance use, and suicide crisis in our community. And then they can then help in determining the trajectory of maybe that person's mental health care. And so CIT is an officer's primary training to learn how to navigate these crises effectively. Ineffective training can then increase the possibility that a police officer or the person in crisis could be injured and then placed in an unsafe situation. This project also allows us to evaluate the suicide and mental health crisis management training among these first responders. And this is really a first step towards that scalable upstream suicide prevention effort that Dr. Mitchell was describing earlier. This training also helps increase the link from those in crisis to Lubbock's mental health services. And perhaps without this link, that connection maybe never would have been made without this training. The study also has the potential to reduce mental health stigma in the community and among police officers specifically. And additionally, this project can reduce the mental health financial burden on the criminal justice system. And I wanted to touch on a little bit the policy implications that the results of our study can provide. So the results of our study may have broader state level policy implications. So specifically, this 40-hour CIT program is a state mandated response to the Sandra Bland Act. However, this mandated program has not been rigorously evaluated in its current state. So evaluating this CIT program will allow us to then perhaps collaborate with the state legislature and locally with LPD regarding how to improve the effectiveness of this essential training. And of course, these are more long-term goals and aspirations of our project. So then what's the impact on the university here? So our project has the potential to improve and more firmly establish an LPD and TTU relationship, which historically there hasn't really been too much of one. So the CIT officers who conduct this training regularly have thanked us for our flexibility and our help, and they really appreciate what we've done as their statement reflected. And thus far, this has been a very positive working relationship for both us here at TTU and for LPD. What's great is that we've really been able to involve psychology graduate and undergraduate students in various aspects of this project, which allows them to gain unique experiences and insights into police procedures and culture, to develop their research skills, to build knowledge about program evaluation work, and to allow them to learn more about policy-focused research in psychology. We're really hoping to expand on the involvement of students and have them more involved as the project continues. COVID has really limited that thus far, but we're hoping as things get better, student involvement can also increase further. We hope to widely disseminate, and we plan to widely disseminate our findings through national academic conference presentations and peer-reviewed publications. But more importantly, we really want to communicate our findings to the non-academic community stakeholders, for example, to the LPD itself and to relevant government officials. Such an approach will really then establish our TTU community connections and further enhance TTU's reputation in our local community, but also other Texas communities as well.
So like was mentioned, students have been less involved with this project due to COVID-19 safety concerns, but we're hoping to increase their engagement as this project continues. And my doctoral students have shared some of their thoughts that I'd like to share with you about their experiences and what they've learned. So the first thing that was actually mentioned is that they were really encouraged that the LPD reached out to us about collaboration. They thought that was really cool. And then my students also now have some increased interest in police mental health broadly. So I have one student specifically who has been more interested in this work and reading more about it. And then they've also gained some practical skills related to conducting a study like this, such as barriers to recruitment, putting together surveys through an online survey platform, tracking participant cohorts over time to make sure that they get the follow-ups on time, larger scale project development and coordination with a community partner more broadly, and then considerations for participant retention. And so this is my first study with a police department and a program evaluation like this. And it's also my first attempt at applying a CBPR framework to research. So I've been learning a lot myself, and it's been fun to kind of learn alongside my students. So I want to talk briefly about some lessons learned and best practices. So regarding possible challenges that we've considered, police officers are a tight-knit community and could be skeptical of an outsider coming in with suggestions about their program or identifying potential problems. So it's important to consider police culture and the TTU team's involvement in the dissemination of our findings. Miscommunication or a mistake that we could make would be something like taking the expert stance as a researcher. And again, going against that CBPR framework and really kind of overly asserting ourselves in the research process. So it's important then that we remember that they are an equally important part of this project. So like I've mentioned, we've used the CBPR framework when developing this project, which really emphasizes partnership and collaboration at all stages of the research project and views that community collaborator as an equal contributor to the work. So we plan to continue to work with the LPD to discuss the most effective ways to present our findings, discuss barriers to participant retention, so how to make sure we keep those people and can get data from them again at 3 and 6 month follow-ups, and also how to possibly make changes based on our findings. So as we continue to learn from each other, we hope to collaborate with the LPD to develop a set of best practices regarding how to work with police officers and government organizations using a CBPR framework to build those community connections. And this could be something that we could publish or present for the academic community and community stakeholders to set an example for other research teams how to effectively join with police departments and benefit their community overall. So where is this headed next? Well, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I think the first thing is we want to keep a good thing going. Our primary focus right now is to maintain this community connection and to provide preliminary findings to benefit the LPD and the CIT curriculum because the CIT is continuously required for new officers by Texas legislation. There's not really a set endpoint to this partnership. However, the focus of our partnership, I'm sure, will continue to evolve into efforts that inform next steps for the CIT curriculum, future research endeavors, and then also just practical applications of our findings. So when we do look to the future, I think that there are many possibilities. Next steps could include augmenting the CIT curriculum to bolster areas that CIT trainees believe could be improved, or offer potential supplemental trainings, such as additional suicide risk assessment and management trainings. These changes in trainings or the CIT content could allow for more rigorous research designs as well. So for example, we could randomize officers to receive the additional trainings or standard CIT, and this would allow us to identify specific benefits of various training components. Also, there is more research that's needed related to officers' behavioral changes after CIT. So we're primarily leaning on record review and LPD records for that right now, but others have suggested behavioral outcomes be examined through body cam footage, for example. So these would be important methodological next steps to further refine and improve the implications of our work. And then sustaining our relationship with the LPD and realizing our long-term plans hinges completely on tending to the collaborative relationship and not forgetting about mutual benefits for all members of the partnership. So this relationship will completely fall apart if the TTU team, if we were to completely focus on academic research products and not on community impact or practical application. So it's important to us that the LPD continues to feel like they're an integral part of the work and benefit from our work together. And to accomplish this, again, we'll continue to lean on the CBPR framework and focus on tangible benefits and products for the LPD. And then these future directions, some things to think about could be funded by both national and foundation funders. So our project focuses on suicide-related outcomes and police officers' trainings, and this could be an excellent fit with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, or AFSP. And AFSP actually has a goal of reducing the US suicide rate by 20% by 2025, and they specifically identify the criminal justice system as a focus area. Also, the National Institute of Justice includes law enforcement and policing as part of their strategic plan, which directly aligns with this research. And then lastly, this line of work could also fit with the National Institute of Mental Health and their funding priorities, given that this study focuses on police interactions with individuals with mental illness or suicide crises as an upstream prevention approach to improve mental health outcomes overall. So we're excited to see where this takes us. But that is all the information that we have for you, and we'd love to hear any questions that you have at this time.
Thank you so much, Megan and Sean. What an impressive program you are involved in. We only have a few more minutes left, but I do have a question or two for you. Given that this type of work with the community takes much more time than sitting in an office or in a lab to conduct the research, separate from any community partners, what have been your personal rewards to you for this kind of work? And then secondly, what tips would you give to other faculty that may be interested in engaged scholarship work?
Yeah, sure. So as far as personal rewards, I mean, you know, we're involved in an academic institution because we love learning. So honestly, my favorite thing about it so far has just been getting to interact with the officers, to see how the training runs, to see what kind of information they get as part of the training. I was initially skeptical when they asked, and I was like, okay, well, let me see what this training is all about. Let me see what kind of content they provide. And the content is actually very good, which I was really happy about. But it's a lot of content, and it's very dense over a short amount of time. Even just even 40 hours doesn't seem like a lot of time. But anyway, that's what's been fun for me, I think, is to get to meet new people, learn new things. And that's been the most rewarding piece so far, especially in these initial stages. Do you have any?
I mean, for me, what I would say is it's been really great to help break down the barrier that academics can't be helpful to the PD, that they want to take over everything and run and just make it all science that they can't understand. They've really expressed to us that we've been approachable, we've been helpful, and they've so appreciated that it is a mutual relationship. And I think perhaps that's maybe why there haven't been some of these relationships between the academic community here and the Lubbock Police Department, is because there were some of these maybe these stereotypes that were perpetuated, if you will. So for me, that's been a great reward from this.
And then I think as far as tips, one thing to consider is kind of like what Dr. Thone had mentioned, is that academics have gotten a bad rap in a lot of ways when they try to establish community partnerships, not only here in Lubbock, but other places I've worked across the US where there's been a connection that was established, and then all of a sudden the researcher disappears, or there's not a lot of communication coordination between the research team and the community partner. So I think making sure that the community partner feels heard and that they're an important part of the process is really important. And that first step is even, what can we do and ask that will help you? What do you want to know? And sometimes, and in this case, it was something that was pretty general. It was kind of like, is it working? We don't know what works, but then we can help kind of craft that into more specific research questions and run it by them. And to really keep them heavily involved in the beginning part of the project as it's getting up and running is really important, because that increases their investment, right? They put their time, they put their thoughts as well into the project, and they're now interested in what's going to happen. So that early engagement is really key, and asking that question of what do you want to know, I think is vital.
Great.
We have one question in the chat from Slenda Cumbie, who's asking, do you see yourself working with police departments and other communities in the future of this project?
Maybe. It's still so early on. I think that there's definitely a lot of potential to do that. Police departments vary from county to county, state to state. So I think, it could kind of come to, you've seen one police department, you've seen one police department kind of thing as far as how things run. So right now our focus is really kind of maintaining this learning, the LPD, and kind of direct community impacts that are more local and are more easily accessible to us at TTU. But I could see ways that this project could expand, and to seek out other collaborators who are also interested in this work. Because it's not to say that nothing has been published about CIT trainings and teams. There's just really not a lot, or it's a bit older. And this 40-hour training they're doing now here in Texas especially is very new. And so that leaves us with a lot of open questions and open opportunities.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your work with others, and best of luck to you for the future.
Thank you so much.
Great. Well, our second team of presenters are the recipients of the Excellence in Engaged Scholarship Award. And the project focuses on a university to district partnership in leadership preparation. And we are very excited to have Dr. Fernando Valle, Dr. Irma Almaguer, Dr. Vanessa De Leon, Dr. Dusty Palmer, and Dr. Slenda Cumbie here from the College of Education. But even more so, we are really excited that they brought their community partners with them. We have Dr. Kathy Rollo, Lubbock ISD Superintendent, Kristen Brown with Iron Middle School, Patricia Lewis with who is the Associate Superintendent of Administration, Innovation and School Improvement, and Amanda Rodriguez, who is the Principal of Seguin Elementary in Grand Prairie ISD. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll turn it over to you.
Hello, everybody. It's really great to be here. Thank you for this great opportunity to present our partnership. Thank you to the Office of the Provost and the Office of the Outreach for supporting engagement work. What we're most really excited about is to be able to share with our partners, because without them, this model would still be in the clouds in the research phase and not in the implementation phase. So we're here to celebrate, 7 years of principal residence across the state, but more importantly, the partnership with Grand Prairie ISD and Lubbock ISD, who helped us initiate this partnership. So as our partners were introduced, you'll hear a little bit more from Dr. Kathy Rollo and Ms. Pat Lewis on their district leadership, their impact, their innovation, and how this preparation leadership partnership model has impacted their communities. We're also really excited to have Ms. Amanda Rodriguez and Ms. Kristen Brown. Not only are they alumni, but they're also part of the principal pipeline, and they have been mentors, if you will, on their own respective campuses, shepherding the next wave of principal preparation pipeline. So as we, okay, great, let's get this going. As we continue our presentation, I'm gonna ask Dr. Almaguer and Dr. Palmer and Dr. Cumbie to introduce themselves so that they can share a little bit about the impact and their role in the program. And again, my name is Fernando Valle. I'm one of the faculty team members and faculty coaches. So I'm gonna hand it over to Dr. Almaguer, one of our co-creators of the program, to share a little bit more as we continue our presentation on the Principal Preparation Partnership.
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Irma Almaguer, and I'm an assistant professor in our educational leadership program. I am also the master's program coordinator. And Dr. Valle and I started this project 8 years ago. And in fact, we are in our 7th cohort partnering with school districts across the state of Texas. I was brought in to help co-write the initial federal grant to start this program. And I worked on redesigning the curriculum at the time that was mostly theory-based. We basically wrote a new curriculum to bridge the theory with best practices. I also assisted in redoing the course sequence to support that learning in the field. And additionally, I helped with the hiring of a team needed to teach and support our students who were working out in the field. To sustain our program, I now assist districts in writing their state grants. My role has always been to teach courses that are aligned to the coaching we do in the field. And my teaching consists of guiding students to look at data through an equity lens, to examine their personal biases as they develop their leadership lens, and to learn to coach as instructional leaders to support and sustain classroom teachers who teach our most at-risk children. And that's what I do. Thank you.
Dr. Palmer, will you share a little bit of your role in this project and partnership?
Thank you, Dr. Valle. Good morning. My name is Dusty Palmer. I have 20 years in educational leadership, serving as music educator, secondary principal, and currently serving as assistant professor in our educational leadership program. I'll be starting my 6th year as a principal fellow coach. I've served as a PF coach with Terrell and Lancaster ISD for a year, and I've served as a PF going on my 6th year with Grand Prairie ISD. I've been a part of Grand Prairie's leadership pipeline, where we have produced around 30 principal fellows. Our partnership has led to efforts and joint presentations at the state level, where our team presenters included Ms. Pat Lewis, role of district administrator, Ms. Mary Smith, mentor principal, Mr. Roberto Lopez, principal fellow, now middle school principal, and my other fellow colleagues, faculty colleagues. Also with my faculty colleagues, we have led other presentations and publications at the state, national, and international levels, specifically over the impact of our principal preparation job embedded residency program. Again, I'm excited for this opportunity and thank you for today's award.
Thank you, Dr. Palmer. Dr. Cumby.
Good morning. My name is Celinda Cumby, and as all other team members, I have practical experience as a principal. I began working in this program 5 years ago as a research assistant, and I joined the team as a full-time instructor upon graduation. I have learned to walk in the steps of these wonderful professionals as I continue to teach the developed curriculum, coaching techniques, and cultural responsive pedagogy. My role is to train and work with our current RAs and to assist students in achieving their principal certification. I am privileged to be here today with such an esteemed team that continues to impact school leadership and school districts in the state of Texas.
Thank you, Dr. Cumby. Missing today is Dr. De Leon, who's retrieving her daughter from Washington, D.C., who was privileged to do an internship with Dr. Fauci's team. Little did she know that that internship 3 years ago was going to turn into what it is today. So Dr. De Leon is tending to mom duties, but she is an important facet to this team. When we say we're a team, we really mean it. We co-teach, co-collaborate, work in the field individually with our partners, and come back and create this model, because really we have to model, we have to practice what we preach. So in this partnership model that you see, we are very fortunate to work with district partners who are innovative, who want to move, who know the responsibility to grow leaders in their district. But more importantly, our model as a university partner has taken us to work with the TA, Texas Education Agency, pushing them to fund and support this principal residency funding. As Dr. Almaguer said, our team started with a federal I3 Innovation and a federal Supporting Effective Educator Development grant. That grant gave us the opportunity to extend this model in not only a state, but a national effort in partner states like in Louisiana. This is where our model was tested, boots on the ground in real time, with real district needs, with real contextual needs, whether it was urban, suburban, or rural. So that had a really huge impact on our curriculum and our work, most importantly on our model. Because we are bound to the state with licensure and credentialing, that didn't mean that we were halted by it. That meant that we were able to create, as Dr. Almaguer said, a just-in-time curriculum. How can we meet the needs of our district partners, the fast-paced rigor that these district leaders live on, and the fast-paced rigor of and the needs, the deep educational needs of our principals who lead and run our schools. This is an integral part of our community. So what we did is really took that just-in-time curriculum and matched it with the pace of what the leaders need to know in the field. That really contextualized and really created this partnership so that we could really dig deep in that area to really create effective school leaders, instructional leaders who are driven by data, who are driven by equity mindset, but most importantly, who are ready on job one, on day one, to go in and to be part of a team. Because the district partner allows us this real live lab setting, if you will, to work in the real world of school leadership, fast paced, making decisions informed in data, and ones that impact students and family. This really translated our work in this model here from not only a youth university preparation and principal initiative, but one that was co-authored and co-written and co-developed with our partners, and they continue to push. This is important because this effort over the years has really allowed us to build trust and relationship. And anything that happens in real time, like our world experience in the pandemic, it takes a lot of work and effort, and more importantly, trust in what we're doing to serve the needs of our students. And that is where really the essence of our program lives in. We're here at the center in this model, not because we are the center, because that's the sweet spot for us. We're able to be informed by our district needs and our partners and pivot and move as a preparation program. And this team is one of the exceptional things about not only having the experience, but being able to coach individually in a rural school, in an urban setting, in our backyard in Lubbock, in the Metroplex, in the Dallas area with our Grand Prairie partners, adjust and meet the needs of the schools in the district, bring that back through our program, and really align that pedagogy and that curriculum that Dr. Almaguer spoke about. So there is a huge impact to the university, as we've been recognized by the state as the top 3 innovative preparation programs in the state, by you as the university in our sustained partnership over these 7 years. In that partnership space, our college and our dean went to Lubbock ISD, where Dr. Rollo now leads, with this partnership idea. And she was on the first commission expedition, if you will, to really put this on paper. What does this look like? What does this sound like? Because we went to national partners. We knew this was happening nationally, but how do you bring this back into the Lubbock context, into our backyard? And when the college offered the first 3 scholarships from the College of Education, Lubbock ISD was quick to stand up and say, we will provide those 3 teacher spots. We will provide that lab space of learning. And that grew into what started as any good research, a pilot and a program, into the national grant model and into a sustained partnership model. Our passion is here, our work is here, but more importantly, today we're really proud to be able to present with our partners, because they really bring this to life with meeting the needs and their issues in their schools, being an effective community partner in the schools, but more importantly, being a university who can push. We want to also currently announce that the Texas Education Agency had its 4th cycle of grant funding, where Grand Prairie and both districts, Lubbock ISD, were successful recipients. Again, the 4th year straight out of the state. So it says a lot about their commitment, their application process, their trust in us, and just to do this work. And we hope that it continues. But today we get to celebrate with our partners. So thank you, Dr. Rollo and Ms. Pat Lewis and the team. I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Kathy Rollo and Ms. Kristen Brown, so we can hear more from them from the Lubbock ISD. And then we'll continue with Ms. Pat Lewis and Ms. Amanda Rodriguez. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Valle. Well, as Dr. Valle mentioned, I've had the privilege of being in this work from the ground up. I'm in my 4th year of being superintendent of Lubbock ISD, but my entire career has actually been within Lubbock ISD, 33 years. And I'm also a graduate of the Texas Tech University College Education Ed Leadership, both principal preparation program and doctoral program. And having been a graduate of the principal preparation program, while I had an excellent education, it was very theory-based. And so when Dr. Scott Ridley, who is the former dean of the college education, had this vision of these partnerships with the college education, and school districts. He's no longer with us on this earth, but this is one of the many legacies he left with regard to community partnerships, and I'm forever grateful for that. But I remember the trip, I believe it was 8 years ago in my former role, Dr. Valle and others, we traveled to see a partnership between Denver Public Schools and the University of Denver, and how they were creating a grow your own school leadership program. And we came back from that trip so very excited, and developed a framework to start this implementation from the ground up. 8 years ago was when we made that trip. So we are now getting ready to select our 8th cohort next year of Tech Principal Fellows. When we started into this partnership, that 8 years ago, we really had 3 goals as far as a Lubbock ISD goal set. And one of them was we wanted to create a pool of campus leaders who had the skill set and mindset to be able to go in and transform a school, a struggling campus. We know that a lot of our principals and assistant principals have learned on the job, and we needed them to come in ready with those skills in place. And we knew that in order to do that, they needed to actually have some experiences in their roles that helped develop that, along with the outstanding rich curriculum that Texas Tech provide. So first was to develop our pool of high quality leaders with the skill set and mindset we needed. The second was to remove barriers. We knew that many of our candidates for leadership roles in the district did not have the time or financial resources to be able to go back to school at that time and get their master's and pursue their ed leadership degree. So this was an opportunity for us to remove some of those barriers for some of our high quality candidates for leadership roles. Our third goal was to increase the diversity in our pool of leaders. We wanted our leadership to look a lot more like the students that we serve. And so that was another goal. I do believe we've done a great job of achieving those 3 goals. As far as our pool, all of our tech fellows who have graduated from this program, with very few exception, are serving as some of our most outstanding assistant principals and principals in the district right now. And you'll hear from Kristen Brown, and she's currently at Irons Middle School doing great work. She is one example of multiple examples of the skill set that this group of graduates bring to the table. We have removed those barriers that I described, and we're still working to increase diversity. That is still one of the goals we're striving for. But I do say that we have achieved a great deal in as far as progressing toward that. I would say a fourth unexpected benefit that we've seen from this program is the learning that takes place for our mentor principals. So our tech fellows are actually paired with a mentor principal. And you would think that all of the learning comes from the mentor principal, but actually it's been very much a two-way street. And so not only have we developed a great pool of future leaders, but we've also built capacity through this program in our current leaders. So that's been kind of an unforeseen benefit, but very much a benefit. It's been really wonderful to see over time how this program has evolved. And that is because of the great collaborative efforts between the Texas Tech University team and our Lubbock ISD team, and of course other districts as well. We've seen changes in the curriculum to better match the needs of our leaders. We've seen changes in our selection process, and we've seen changes in the way that we train our mentors. Those are just a few examples. And then it's been also fun to see how, as the network of district partners have grown, it's been neat to have that network experience as well. So I want to congratulate Texas Tech and their team for being selected for this award. It's very much deserved, and we look forward to many more years with this great partnership. At this time, I'll turn it over to one of our great graduates, Kristen Brown.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Valle and Dr. Rollo. As she said, I'm Kristen Brown. I was a Texas Tech Fellow 2 years ago with Cohort 5. I'm currently an assistant principal here in Lubbock, Texas at Irons Middle School, and I have been for the last 2 years. I will be highlighting my experiences as a Tech Fellow, my current role mentoring a Tech Fellow, and the skills acquired through this program. As a Texas Tech Principal Fellow, I was provided the opportunity to develop a rich skill set through hands-on practical experience with the guidance and support of my mentor principal and Lubbock ISD. My journey as a resident began with an equity audit to analyze the strengths and opportunities of the campus that I was placed on. And I was a fortunate principal fellow. I did my fellowship here at Irons and was hired on at Irons. So I believe that's also a benefit to this program. It was kind of like a year-long interview. So completing the equity audit that I conducted allowed me to have a holistic view of the campus before I even had the opportunity to meet the staff and students. So as I walked into the building, I knew numbers and the data that went with the teachers and their names, but I hadn't put a face to a name. And so I was able to come in with an open mind and, get started from that point. The information and knowledge that I gained from the equity audit led me to the development of a prescriptive action plan, which included quarterly goals for select teachers, students, and content areas that I was working with. Part of my coursework also included meeting and interviewing key stakeholders with whom I now work with on a daily basis. And so by getting or having the opportunity to meet the stakeholders ahead of time and having to interact with them has really been beneficial. Every day when I'm making decisions, if I need to call on somebody, I don't have that fear factor of I'm calling, somebody from student services to explain a situation. I have the confidence to do so. And we've built a relationship because of that. Being a mentor to a current tech fellow has allowed me to share key insight into the residency program in real time. Having firsthand knowledge of the coursework has created ongoing opportunities for the two of us to have in-depth conversations about the decision-making process that he faces daily, disaggregating data each week, and of course, the inevitable discipline. Working closely also allows built-in time to reflect on the instructional component of the program as well. And so a tech fellow oversees a PLC, which is a planned learning community. And so we are able to sit down and discuss what that should look like, what the expectations are, and kind of grow from each other. I'm able to support and encourage our fellow to be confident in his decision-making, to take risks while feeling supported, and to have the ability to lead a department while having the autonomy to create and implement quarterly interventions. The Texas Tech Fellowship Program continues to build my skill set even now that I've graduated and I'm 2 years into being an assistant principal. I would like to also take this opportunity to thank Dr. Rollo of Lubbock ISD and Texas Tech University for their continued support in developing future leaders and for your partnership with Texas Tech Principal Fellowship Program. And so at this time, I'll give it back to Dr. Valle. Thank you again.
Thank you, Kristen. And what a great opportunity for us as faculty to continue to work. We feel at home when we go into the campuses and we see our graduates and they're leading. And as Pat Lewis can attest, we kind of feel at home when we go into Grand Prairie, especially when Dr. Palmer is able to, continue this work. So I want to hand this over to Ms. Pat Lewis and Ms. Amanda Rodriguez so they can talk about the partnership experiences in Grand Prairie and the Metroplex. And so thank you both for being here today with us.
Thank you, Dr. Valle. Good morning to everyone. This is an honor and a pleasure to be able to present with you the information from Grand Prairie ISD. We are located right in the middle of Dallas and Fort Worth, so we really are in the Metroplex. But I would like to say I have over 30 years of experience in education. And I also have been working with Texas Tech for the past 6 years in this Principal Fellows program. We was a part of the initial grant that was written by the Texas Tech. And then the Texas Education Agency started a Grow Your Own program. And because of our amazing partnership with Texas Tech, we were able to be awarded each year, each cycle, grant funds to help assist in this awesome program. We had needs in our area, a very competitive area of retaining and recruiting effective leaders. So our goals was to make sure that not only do we recruit, but we would recruit our own, grow your own leaders. And so we wanted to be able to create a system where we could create, where we could support, grow, and continue to place future-ready leaders on our campuses, of our high-need campuses. And so our goals were to prepare effective instructional leaders. We wanted to recruit candidates from diverse backgrounds, and we wanted to continue to develop them, as well as our mentor principals. And I'll share with you that our mentor principals, because of this program, we created a master principal program. This master principal program are principals who have been going through training on coaching and growing leaders. And so our mentor principals are master principals. So this program has given us the opportunity to create a pipeline for principals once they are already at the campus level. We wanted to also make sure that our campus leaders are prepared on day one. And what this program has done, it has allowed us to make sure that when we placed a fellow on a campus, they are prepared. It allowed us to create what we wanted leaders in our district. We wanted to create a premier leadership destination. And how would we do that? We look for partners that will help us through training, practical application, and mentoring and coaching. And what this program has done for us is to allow us to meet those goals as we continue to do that. We wanted to make sure our leaders were lead by example. We wanted to make sure our leaders would learn how to empower people, and we want to make sure our leaders knew how to create success. And so we have been able to, probably about over $2 million in grant funds to be able to continue this leadership program with Texas Tech. I also, lastly, before I hand it over to Amanda, I'd like to also let you know that I am a student of Texas Tech currently. I am in the doctoral program, and I am truly enjoying the growth as a leader myself, as a district leader. So thanks for the continued partnership. Thanks for helping us grow in our program. All 30 of our fellows are in a campus or district leadership role currently. So the success of this program is actually showing that we're producing leaders to over 29,000 students, and we're proud of that partnership. And now I'd like to hand it over to Ms. Amanda Rodriguez.
Thank you, Pat. I wanted to start by thanking Dr. Valle and Dr. Almaguer and Dr. Cumby and Dr. Palmer for this opportunity. You know, it's been, I want to say 5 years, 6 years ago. Time flies as a campus principal, but for me, this program was the ability to open the door that I didn't even know existed for me. I am the youngest of 7 children. I came to education 13 years ago as a, second career. I felt like, let's give it a try. I started as a substitute teacher, and I thought, well, maybe I can find someone who's going on maternity leave, because I want the class that I can stay at a little bit longer, that I can maybe actually do some teaching. And in a short period of time, I went from getting my bachelor's degree to, and then, being brought, my principal, who's Mary Smith, she's a mentor principal currently, but she said, you should try this. You should really look into this. She said, I think that you would be good at it. I think you're ready for a leadership position. I didn't know at the time that I unlike Ms. Brown, would have to leave my campus. I don't know if I would have applied, but I did, and I got accepted, and I had to leave my campus and go to another campus. And I thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? But that was part of a very strategic move that Grand Prairie ISD had that said, we believe that this is the best way to do this, is that we're going to have you go to another campus to experience additional great leadership. And I was put with a mentor principal, Tanya Gilliam, whom allowed me to shadow her and accompany her and take great notes. So that year of on-the-job training was so pivotal to my learning. And I'll tell you that from the first day that I stepped foot on Texas Tech, during that week that we spent there, that week allowed us to feel like we were true students, true members of this program. From that week to the very end, when I went to pick up my graduation, I went to pick up my degree. It was very intentional, and it was very strategic, and everything was due to Dr. Valle and Dr. Almaguer and the professors. And we never felt alone. We never felt alone. That class, we're being so far away. It's very easy to be like, okay, it's an online program, but this program doesn't do that. It makes us feel like we are true students of Texas Tech. And so even though I am, I'm this far away and not maybe in Lubbock ISD, it's like I always felt like my professors were there. They were a phone call away. They would fly in, we would have meetings. So all of that support, all of the learning that occurred helped prepare me to be not just an assistant principal. I was an assistant principal for 2 years, and then became a principal now at Seguin Elementary. But they prepared me for a pandemic. With that, I don't think we would have never imagined that this happened. And honestly, I would have, if they would have said, okay, we're gonna prepare you for this principal certification. You're gonna sit in the assistant principal chair for 2 years. Your first year as principal, there's gonna be a pandemic, and this is what's gonna happen. But I'll tell you that year of learning, not only from the professors, but from being able to be on campus as a fellow and as an assistant principal, shadowing my mentor principal, helped me for the unknown. It gave me that. And so I now, I've been able to assist with mentoring others. I know that last year, right before the pandemic, I had a group of mentors from Greenville ISD come to campus and spend the day, and we had great conversations, and they had lots of questions, and I see that the program continues to build great instructional leadership. Guiding teachers to go from in-class and in-person learning to virtual learning has been a very, very difficult and challenging year for teachers. But every step of the way, I've been able to go back and reach into what I learned from my year as a principal fellow, and just the instructional leadership classes and the PLCs and all those things that we went through as a fellow help prepare you. And I am very grateful that I was chosen, and I'm very grateful that my district continues to have this partnership, because I know that assistant principals are coming up, that other principals are coming up. And so it's just a cohort, and that year really binds us. So again, I appreciate that. And I'm grateful for the partnership that my district and Texas Tech has created and will continue to have. So thank you again, Dr. Valle and Dr. Almaguer, Dr. Cumbie, and Dr. Palmer for that opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Amanda Rodriguez. we've talked about, you heard from faculty talk about our national research and our presentation. We've collaborated with Lubbock ISD and Grand Prairie ISD to present at the state level in their partnership so that Grand Prairie, can showcase and speak to other districts across the state how they are building their own pipeline. So the impact on our research as a team is profound. I mean, we're all tenure track faculty. We're always looking for that best practice, but having the opportunity to engage with communities in real time and be responsible and be really student-centered with educational leaders is really powerful. And so Amanda spoke to the real life experience of what it was in public education for all of us, because there are students. And during the pandemic, in true fellows fashion, Dr. Palmer and Dr. Mayer, both the faculty leads and coaches in Lubbock ISD and Grand Prairie ISD, were able to finish the program, pivot and make adjustments, right, to the needs, virtually supporting teachers, moving all of the tenets of principal leadership work into an online environment. And even though all of that came through, this is what the tenacity and the trust and the relationship of partnerships is all about, that we make it work, right? And that's kind of the expectation for a K-12 educator. Deal with the community, deal with what's coming at you, make it work, right? And we take that and really turn it into a partnership. So here you have those images from, Lubbock ISD completing their showcase presentation. And the showcase presentation in this program is a demonstration of the competencies and skills that both Amanda and Kristen spoke about, right? What does that look like and sound like with a partnership at the district level, with a partnership of leadership implementation at the campus level, and with a partnership in a university program? That tiered level, three-tiered level approach is demonstrated in a showcase professional competency where the graduates, and in this case, these pictures represent our 2021 graduates coming through the pipeline, are able to demonstrate to the superintendent, to the cabinet, to mentor principals on their not only role in the principal pipeline to fill our district partner goals, but more importantly, that they understand now that they're part of a bigger consortium of leaders where the mindset is through that equity data lens, through the skill and the practice, those KSMs, those knowledge and skills and mindset practices are demonstrated in competencies. So we want to thank everyone for being here today, for the team, for the faculty, most importantly for our partners for making time to celebrate this partnership with us. We couldn't do it without you. It sounds so cliche, but it's so true. When we set in applications, it's a no-brainer. We need that application with our district partner right there, hand in hand, right? So we can make this work. So thank you all for this opportunity to present. And I'm going to hand it over back to our symposium leaders so that we may be able to maybe field some questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Valle. And thank you to the entire team, to all your colleagues from the College of Education, Dr. Almaguer, Dr. Dusty Palmer, and Dr. Vanessa De Leon. And of course, especially we would like to thank our partners and your community partners, Dr. Kathy Rollo, Kristen Brown, Patricia Lewis, and Amanda Rodriguez. We really appreciate it. I'm checking in the chat box. There are no questions right now, and I know we are pretty much out of time. I guess I have just one quick question. It sounds like such an ideal model. Are there plans to work with other school districts to implement a similar model in the near future in Texas?
Yes, great question. What we didn't have time to expand on is that every year we partner with up to 5 to 7 school districts. Lubbock ISD and Grand Prairie are literally our role models for the other districts across the state. So this year we're partnering with 4 districts. Last year we partnered with another 4. So every year we have the opportunity to partner with 4 or 5 districts and take it into rural school districts, urban, and different settings to refine and this model that we have.
Wonderful, great. Well, congratulations and best of luck for the future. I appreciate it. Appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much. And before we log off, just a quick reminder, we have a wonderful keynote presentation coming up at 1 o'clock. It's Ms. Courtney Griesel, the Economic Development Director for the City of Springfield, and she's going to talk about the role of public universities in building resilient communities. So please join us. You can use the same Zoom link. She will speak from 1 till 1:50, and we'll have Dr. John Opperman introducing her. And then at 2 o'clock, we have the two other teams who won the Engaged Scholarship Awards, which is the ACOM block with a faculty lead team from the College of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources, and the West Texas 3D COVID-19 Consortium, which is just an amazing project, an amazing collaboration between faculty from Texas Tech, various colleges involved, all the way to the Health Sciences Center and UT Permian Basis, and lots of community partners who will tell us about their COVID relief efforts and the ongoing research that's taking place. So I hope we can welcome you again at 1 o'clock, and then please stay logged in for the 2 o'clock breakout sessions. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.